or come up with discussions on how we can help these rural women to, or how we can solve some of these challenges, some of these issues these women are facing. Thank you.
And reminding us actually some of the key issues that are faced by women across Africa and you would say anywhere in the world. Yes, these are issues that maybe sometimes over the years we've talked about them, over and over and over again, and I'm happy that we're reminded of it again this evening because the real issue that confronts us today is how we can further take advantage of the situation. I mean, Atinuke talks about how she was able to visit a village, and then that's when the world was free and we could move around and help each other. We could sit down, in little circles and discuss our issues. Just supposing that the world becomes something that we're unable to reach each other. Like throughout 2020, I'm not sure how many people were able to meet in circles to talk about these issues, which brings us to the relevance of why we are meeting today, to say what and how can we effectively, use technology to even continue to help, women alleviate their issues, despite the fact that we're not meeting, physically. And I'm glad that Atinuka made her presentations first, because I'm going to ask Karima to come up, in a short while, and she's going to be discussing. She's going to be making a case for adopting the use of technology across all sectors to advance the cause of women in Africa. We really do need to hear this presentation, and I'm happy that Karima is ready to feed us a bit with that information. After she's done, then Rita is going to interface with participants. So I'd like to employ participants right now to just keep note of the questions. The big question for me is, how do we get more women? How do we save more women, and alleviate the issues that they're facing, even when we cannot meet them physically? What in technology, gives us that advantage, to harness our efforts as women helping other women with what we're going through. So in a short while, Karima.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this important conference. I'm very glad to share with you some of my thoughts about a topic that I'm very passionate about, and I've been working on inclusive digital policies for quite a number of years. Well, actually, I will be talking a little bit in general about inclusive digital policies, starting with the case of coronavirus outbreak and the impact of the use of digital technology and its impact on women. Then I will be tackling the case of rural women. Well, actually, as you know, that during the coronavirus outbreak, women mostly and vulnerable people knew it were the most affected by the measures taken by different governments throughout the world, and also in the African continent, impacting the livelihood of many women. That many women lost their jobs. They've been affected from the socioeconomic side. And as you know, also that the world is going digital today. Many African countries set up visionary policies in the coming years for a digital transformation. Yet with the coronavirus outbreak, it accelerated this digital transformation. And as you know, that many services, more specifically socioeconomic services towards women, youth and vulnerable groups and people who were affected directly or indirectly with the coronavirus outbreak have gone digital. Yet the issue lies on the accessibility and access to these services, because rural women specifically and vulnerable groups and people living in remote areas with no access to infrastructure and technology had difficulty accessing these digital services. So basically, we can talk about the different services related to digital financing. You know that many governments issued several allowances, those small allowances to alleviate the socioeconomic impact of coronavirus, more specifically to women and vulnerable groups. But many, because they can't access to technology, have not benefited from these services. I can talk about access to banking services, access to insurance services, access to loans, renting, subsidies, and even cash transfer. So it was very difficult for women to access these services because of the technology and also because of the connectivity. We, living in urban or suburban cities, or sometimes we can say we're living in cosmopolitan cities with more access to technology, found it even difficult to access to many digital services, let alone people who have no infrastructure. And if we talk about rural women, we know that, as my colleague before stated, that rural African women are the backbone, more specifically for agriculture, and many African countries relies on agriculture. She's also the main actor behind food security, and how much food security was very important, especially during the coronavirus outbreak. But she cannot access to several technology services. And if we talk about the agriculture tech services, it comes to my mind quickly the access to innovative for machines that would serve as an important element for African women to ensure production, but also this will help these women alleviate the burden of other domestic work she has to do. But these issues also has many barriers, as my previous colleague mentioned. I don't want to mention the same thing, but I can say that there are many mental barriers that prevents rural women from accessing technology, many of which is that many women believe that technology is designed only for men, and technology is only designed for tech experts. So therefore, all the empowerment policies designed for rural women do not take into consideration new innovative approaches in coaching these women with user-friendly technological products, so that she can benefit from these technology products. Also, in terms of accessibility, in terms also of prices, many technology products are very expensive for women. So here, I would like to talk more specifically about digital policies, because many countries now are developing digital policies for the next years because of this digital acceleration. And I would like to ask few questions about the inclusion of women in this process of making these digital policies. First of all, what kind of technology do women want? Did we take time to do diagnosis about what the kind of technology women want. The second is how are women needs included while co-innovating and developing these digital policies across different sectors. The third question is how can women gain more voice throughout the process of designing, implementing, and evaluating these digital policies? It means that if we design these policies for rural women, do we really include these rural women in the whole process of developing these policies? And also in terms of accessibility, many rural women do not have access to information. How are they supposed to know more information about what is available and what is not available, and how to use these technologies? Also, because of many restrictive measures by the coronavirus outbreaks, I think all sectors, there have been several services more specifically done by the government, but also civil society organizations have innovative, in difficult time, several technological services designed for women, whether in rural or in urban cities, because as you know, women were exposed to domestic violence, did not access to justice, did not access to health services, to safety. So they've been we've been seeing many CSOs who have developed, who have used civic technology and developed many mobile apps, user-friendly, so that women can access these services. But I think the most important here, if we want really to talk about the access to technology to these women, is that we have to solve the issue from the policy side. Because if those digital policies are not inclusive, did not take the consideration of rural women specifically, because even in rural areas, it's different. The culture in mountainous areas is different from a different side of rural areas. So we have different geography, we have different cultures, also the language. You know that many high-tech tools are designed in English and other languages, and they're not designed in vernacular languages. So the information gets very hard for these women to have access to this. So I think we have to be culturally sensitive, and we have to take into consideration gender sensitive policies when designing any type of technology service designed for women. And I will leave it to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karima, for giving us that very brief but very insightful, um, leading us to some of the insightful things that we should really be considering, especially when the world is talking about, digitalization and all of that. The policies, however, that support digitalization. I hear Karima drawing caution to whether or not communication materials access, that women would they have access to generic materials that they can understand? For instance, because of the different languages, the topography is different, where geography is different, people come from various backgrounds and stuff like that. So cultural sensitivity is going to be very a key aspect of whatever it is that policy support across governments. Definitely, policy is very, very important. I mean, I hear all this, germane issues raised about whether or not women can have access to, the things, the information, common information that they need, for instance, to even, ease some of the problems that they're having. Um, and I'm hoping, I wish that we had had a chance to hear the TED presentation, which would have talked about solutions to bridging some of these gaps, because certainly there are gaps, in trying to leverage on technology to alleviate some of the problems that rural women are facing, especially. So there are questions. I'm sure Rita is getting ready to interface with those questions. Dr. Jumai, what are your thoughts exactly?
Thank you very much. So far, so good. The challenges are there, like I was going to expect to look here to shed more light because she's been somebody that has been on the field from what she has stated. So I'd like to know if from her experiences on the field, there are some, if there are any form of support or a suspected support from the government at the local government level to assist these women, because I know that in some of the third world countries, something as little as some tech phones were given to women to access some basic agricultural farm information and how they can sell their product in the event that they don't have access to the market, but they have some form of collaboration with people that can assist them. So I would like us to look into that matter to see, and I will expect Atinuke to let us know in her experience in Nasarawa City and across the country in Nigeria, if there are commitments from the grassroots, from women cooperatives, from NGOs. Everything cannot be left for the government to do. That is why we have NGO to continue with the advocacy to see how we'll be able to come together to enable these women access the basic technological tools they need to be able to improve on their lives. Thank you.
If Atinuke will just quickly respond to that. I'm sure, Rita, before you take on engaging with the participants and their questions, that you will also give us one or two your own personal views on the conversation. But Ms. Atinuke, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. With my experience working with these women, most interventions that government presents usually focus more on the men and very little being done for the female. So most of the interventions they get are usually from CBOs, community-based organizations, who reach out to them and identify their needs. So for instance, let me talk about the projects we worked on. That was in 2013. One of the things we did was to set up a cooperative group for them. We also taught them on secured livelihoods, on how to increase their production, how to record, because most of them just plant, they don't even know whether they are making profit or loss. Talk to them about, we also talk to them about how to access loans. But from my experience and places I've worked, there's really little or no intervention from government. Most interventions usually come from NGOs and individuals that work with these people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Earlier on when she was making the presentation, she kept talking about when she highlighted the challenges that women are facing, the fact that sometimes, there's a section she referred to as personal interference, that could, which one of it could be education. You understand the fact that you as a woman can't even, you're not educated enough to even access the information that is available. Okay, how do we help ourselves? Is there anything that we can do that technology can leverage? Karima has cleverly also talked about, the importance of making information generic to people or to a group of women, that are there at that level, because there's no room for exclusion, while we're making all of these efforts and all of that. And Rita, I was thinking that there's a power in testimonials of what people do and how they've been able to navigate it, and other women are sharing that experience from how they have surmounted or were able to solve their own challenges. Okay, it encourages other people to, solve their own problems as well, or at least design that uniqueness about themselves. Rita, what are your thoughts about what technology can do, really?
Uh, Thank you very much, Sister Rakia. The two things that stood out for me from the presentation so far is the issue of information and language. Sister Tarika talked about the fact that we have challenges with information, dissemination in the rural area. The fact that
the locals don't have access to information, which is very correct. And Karima talked about the fact that even when you do have information, how do you communicate it? There's a language and geographical barrier challenge. As a media person, I do know that, again, leaning on what Atinike said about the fact that there's very little government intervention. You have more of NGOs. But I've worked with a particular project where what they did was come up with programs in local languages and put these programs on radio that taught the locals, women, about specific things they need to know, i.e., family planning, farming, the little how to apply their fertilizers. But they didn't just put this program on the radio and left it at that. They formed focus group for these women and the men as well. When it comes to the family planning issue, they had groups that included men and women so that they can discuss about what they've heard on radio and then engage to be able to implement what they have learned from this program. So there's a focus to say we want this program to speak to this particular issue, break it down to the language that they understand, but not just leave it there. Engage them after they hear this program and say, what have you gotten from this? How do you plan to apply this information that you've gotten? So I'm thinking, can we apply this to the use of technology as well? Because Karima tells us that, look, they're planning. Yes, we know now that we need to, make these people have access to technology, given what COVID-19 has taught us so far, right? But are we even involving them in planning what form of technology they need? Do they need tractors? Can they operate them? Can there be better equipment that the women can work with to make their farming a lot easier? But we can't know except they are involved. So the issue of inclusiveness is very important. So I think I'm going to leave it there, and I just go to it. I'll get back to Mr. Ricky so that I can go to the interaction.
Host of the question. I hear what you're saying, Rita, and very interestingly, when Karima was talking, she talked about the importance of, while people are gearing towards making policies, supporting digital policies and all of that. I hope, we're not going to have a repetition of the era where, a couple of executives will sit down around the table and make policies that concern women in the rural areas. I know that there are a lot of questions coming from participants, but just before we go to the participants, Rita, I'd like for Karima to respond quickly to a question that bothers my mind, which is the fact that, yes, if policies are going to be made, it's important. We do need them. Can you share any experience of the processes? We would usually say advocacy to the concerned bodies and stuff now, but what are the new things that we can share? Because some of us know how difficult advocating at that level could be sometimes. What is the new thing that Africa can learn, or African women, especially those who are able to interface with policymakers? What's that new thing that you could share with us, Karima?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. I think it's very important because usually in many programs, we used to see these women as beneficiaries more than women that should be really part of the process, because women do not really need the intermediaries. So we should empower them to sit on the table and voice their opinion themselves. So basically, CSOs who work with rural women need to empower women in communities who have, let's say, the minimum requirements of leadership, so that they can empower also other women we can talk about peer-to-peer pressure, education, and teach them how to voice their opinion, how to advocate themselves for their needs. This is first. Second, and I think from the experience of coronavirus, I have some few things to suggest here on the table, because I've been seeing questions related to mobile apps and how these women could have access to this technology. I think from some very limited experiences, I think developing mobile apps with an easy functioning utilities in these mobile apps can help. But the challenge is that do these women all have smartphones? Because we know that mobile apps need a smartphone. So this is a problem. If in case they have smartphones, using codifications and signs more specifically for women who are literate, who cannot, who are not able to read, I think signs could help. It's easy. It could be also information in their own language, so that they could be able to codify. But we cannot do this without doing campaigning. We have to go to them, and we have to reinforce the community engagement. CSOs who could work with community leaders, who could play this role in empowering these women, empowering these women and bringing the information up to them there in the language that they understand. But for example, for certain services, it's a bit sensitive to have an intermediary person to help these women to access these services, especially banking services, insurance services. And we have seen that it is up to many violations during coronavirus. Those who helped women have access to allowances during coronavirus, etc., so they could use their data and use it for something else, and not bring the necessary services to these women. So it's a whole complicated process, but I think it should not be top down. It should be coming from the grassroots, and it should be demanding a seat in the table, so that when they develop their policies, it should not be something like fancy, nice, high tech, without really reaching, those who are really in need of these services.
Thank you very much, Karima. We're 1 hour gone in our 2 hour program, so I know that there are loads of questions coming from participants. So in the next 1 hour, I hope that we have an interactive session with the panelists, with Rita, Queen Rita, driving that process. Thank you very much, Queen Rita.
Thank you very much, Auntie Rekia. Yes, indeed. Karima, we hear you, and of course, Atinuke, we hear you as well. We're going to get on to our interactive section now, but before we do that, let me just do a quick recap of the two speakers we've had so far. Like Auntie Rekia communicated earlier, sadly, we couldn't have Nizar Sami join us because he's not feeling too well. Okay. From Atinuke, she spoke about the challenges that rural women have, cultural norms, lack of resources, because you pay little attention to yourself when you have to be, engaged with taking care of everybody, farming. It's like culturally, women put themselves last, and this is even worse in the rural area. And then she also mentioned the family life cycle. People girls get married in some parts of Africa without their own consent. It's just you're at the age now, you've been betrothed, and then you get married. So that's a circle. She also spoke about employment, something I want to interpret as lack of it, because since they're all rural farmer most of the times, when it's out of farming season, they're jobless. So she says they find themselves flocking to the city and doing menial job. And that is also a big challenge. She also mentioned that, let me see what's number 5 now. Community exclusion, which is something that Karima jumped on when you talk about bringing them to the table. You can take decisions about people when they are not there. You can, impose your opinion of what they think is what they need on them, right? And then she also spoke about conflict and disaster management. I don't know where we are speaking from. Nigeria, we've experienced a fair share of what conflict and disaster can do to women, and both in the urban and the rural area. So I think everyone can relate to that. She went on to also talk about technological issues, low level of education, which of course is a problem. Those who invent it don't think of the fact that you have people who don't have that technological know-how where they're inventing, right? And women, according to what Atinuke said, are generally viewed as users. They are just consumers of technology. They are not seen as inventors, and that there's no plan really made to accommodate them in that regard. She also spoke about cultural and social factors that are challenges in terms of access to technology, time and mobility constraint. I mean, when women are in the farm and taking care of the house, the last thing they think about is how they can engage with creating content for social media, or generally finding out what is going on online. So yes, they have the exclusion as a result of lack of time. She also spoke about inadequate financial resources. Now, if you relate that to the fact that it is very clear from the UN data, if you look at it, the poverty level of women generally is a big challenge, and it's even worse in the rural area. That's just to have a brief recap of what Atinuke spoke about before she did final intervention, giving us an instance of a family that she had reasons to interface with in a community where she went to work. Right now, let's look at what Karima told us. Karima spoke specifically, I would say, about the socioeconomic services towards women and people in general has gone digital, which is very true. Since the lockdown, everything has gone digital. People thought, learned, operated digitally, made orders digitally, bought stuff digitally. And the challenge is they were a marginalized set of people who didn't have access. And I like the fact that she put it out there that even those who are supposedly in cosmopolitan cities, in the urban area, have their challenges. Not to talk of those in the rural area. So you can imagine that's like a double wahala. If you are in my part of the world, you know what I mean by that. Okay, it's a big challenge. Now, she spoke about the access to innovative machines. And that's very key because we've talked about the fact that women in the rural area are majorly farmers. So if we know they are farmers, do they have access to the machines they need to make farming easier for them to be able to be more productive? These are the questions that I believe Karima was asking when she brought up that point. That women believe that tech is for men. That's a challenge, right? It comes from inside now. That women believe, oh, this one is so techy, give it to the guy. Was not produced for women. They don't want to relate to it as something that is meant for women. And that's a mindset thing, which is also a challenge where we talk about women and technology, whether in terms of inclusivity or accessibility, if you like. And then, yes, since I already mentioned inclusivity, she talked about whether women are included when it comes to deciding what technology they would need. Even now that the world has come to terms with the fact that women need technology, whether they are in urban or rural area. But we agree, which is why we have this topic of discussion, that the rural area is where we have the most challenge. So how do we bring women in the rural area to the table to discuss, engage, and have a conversation around this issue of what technology will make your life easier? What will make farming easier for you? What will make it easier for you to teach your children? Or what will make it easier for you to learn how to make kunu better? Or whatever it is that they actually have as a means of livelihood. So yes, indeed, robust presentation from
our speakers so far. And yes, now we will go to the chat room and see who is talking there, what questions we're asking. And the good news is the panelists are still seated and they can respond to any of the questions you ask. Yes, Auntie Rikia is also in capacity to do that. And we also have the founder of Helpline Foundation, who is our convener, Dr. Juma Amodio, also seated. So yes, whichever way the questions go, I am very sure I will have somebody to throw it out. So keep it coming, okay? So I'm gonna move on to the chat room now and see who is talking to us there. Some of them are intervention. I see one from Holly Jensen. Says that to look at, thank you for your presentation about the barriers on rural women in Africa that African women face. You spoke about the fact that you're the vice president of International Ha International, that's an NGO, okay? I'm trying to catch what specifically your intervention or question is so I can get straight to it because it's a pretty long one. You said the women work together and support each other and help break down some of the gender issues in their community, like violence against women, starting female-run businesses and etc. Now, if you're interested to learn more, okay, I think you can go on the chat and he's trying to share some information there. You can go on there if you want to get more and read that one up. Uh, Kamagat says one of the problem women encounter to access or use technology is their illiteracy. Who should we go to look at this? The challenge of illiteracy and access to technology for rural women.
That was like somebody mentioned the fact that we have to actually go as far as breaking this information down in their respective languages. That way they'll understand it more. And in the event that they cannot operate these technologies, we advocate that in each cluster there should be somebody that is knowledgeable enough to be able to tell them how to use this technologies that will be made available to them. But the most important thing is that they have to also on their own make effort. It's not enough for these technologies to be made available to them, but how interested are they in trying to use these technologies? So the key thing is for people to continue in the advocacy and most importantly, like we've heard in the chat room, to make information, quality information accessible to these women to be able to use it profitably for them to be empowered, without which they won't be able to really understand what you're talking about. But not all of them understand English. By the time we get an interpreter that will come and break it down for them, they'll be able to understand. But most importantly, government at each level should be able to come on board also to see how this can be available to these women. They can be in cluster cooperative, for example. It's not everybody in the cooperative cluster that will be illiterate, that will not know how to operate. But if one or two persons among this group knows how to use this particular technology, it's going to be of great benefit to the entire cluster. So I think that is one way that we can look at it to be sure that if they understand it better, they'll be able to use it better. Like you said, COVID-19 came so rapidly, changed the way things are done. We are now faced with the new normal. And if you don't brace up to do everything within your power to be able to fit into the new normal, it will be difficult for you. And we cannot afford to leave rural women behind. They also need to be taught in the way that they have to understand this thing.
Now, thank you very much, Dr. Juma Amodu. Now, someone sent in this one, I think it's Nimi. She says, I'm not sorry, I'm not sure whether it's a he or she.
It's a she, Nemi.
She, okay, Nimi. He said, if technology can be broken into local languages, then the gap in illiteracy can be less burdensome. Karima, are you there? How can we break technology into local languages?
It's a very difficult task, actually, but I've been seeing many mobile applications for certain services that are in local languages, and they are user friendly, not very complicated, because many mobile applications sometimes are so sophisticated that we no longer want to use them because it's so complicated for us to navigate through the different some who are very easy with symbols, using local languages. I think the usability, the accessibility, and the local language is very important in that sense. And I think here the problem is that with the rapid transformation, we are not actually trying to go with the pace. There is a rapid transformation, but we're still lagging behind because there is a big portion of the population who do not have actually access to any infrastructure. And during this time of coronavirus, we're still living social distancing, a lot of restrictions because of the new virus. There are many lockdowns around the world today. And if we talk about literacy, for example, one of the biggest issues during coronavirus is access to education for women and vulnerable groups, and women and population in rural areas in general. Many do not have tablets, do not even have connectivity. While some of the governments opted for television and radio because it reaches every home to do pre-recorded courses, although it's a bit challenging, but it's an option to bring more access to these population. Also, I know in Africa there are a lot of community radios. Sometimes just for certain certain number of kilometers for small villages, you can find a community radio, and this is where you can transmit information and get access to information to women. So I think what we could do is have a kind of a marketing mix, as we say, between online and offline. And also there are several mobile applications that have been developed. For example, if we take the example of violence against women, which increased a lot during the confinement last year, there are many mobile applications that have been developed using just Bluetooth, because some women do not even have access to GPS. They don't have access to smartphones so that they can report about violence. And there are some mobile applications also you can use them offline. So we know that we have a problem of connectivity even in urban cities, power cuts. We know our realities, so let alone people in remote areas who do not have any kind of network. So I think empower or encouraging young people who have been very innovative during coronavirus to develop something accessible to these women, but not just develop it, but bring these women, do a kind of a public consultation with them, check what type of technology that they could use, that they could adopt themselves, because developing something sophisticated that nobody is going to use is useless. So I think here the importance of public consultation, bringing those voices and listening to their needs and developing something adequate to their needs I think is the key. But it needs a political will, I think, because it needs policy makers, decision makers, and it needs the involvement of all stakeholders in the process.
Karim, I hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Now let's go to this particular comment from John Bull. Gift John Bull. He says, "Women really do put themselves last most of the times." I want to quote to you, Atinuke. You gave an experience of engaging with people in a community, and you said that they there's a lady who is pregnant, the mother is still pregnant, and they cannot stop that, even though they know they can access family planning pills, because they can't take decisions. So there's the issue of intentionality. Now, in the course of your work with people in such communities, have you tried to sample the possibility of them actually intentionally taking action to protect themselves when it comes to things that affect their lives?
Thank you very much. So, well, different women, different categories of women. The lady in question that I give the example, I just feel she's not ready. Maybe she enjoys doing getting pregnant every year because after several discussions, she has an elder sister that is even a bit educated, and she has dragged her to the health center for the family planning, but she ran away. She said she was not going to do it. The husband doesn't like it. She doesn't want to disobey the husband. So I think that's also an example of women treating themselves last, because this is your health. This is about you. If you die today, the husband will remarry. But instead of putting your health first, you are considering what your husband will say or whether your husband likes it or not. So there are different cases. There are women that after explaining the implication to them, they agree and say, okay, I want to take this decision. And there are some that maybe because of the fear of what the husband will do, if he gets to know, they are still bound in, they are not doing it because if the husband gets to know, it might stir up trouble in the house.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay, I like what I'm seeing in the chat room. People are asking questions and others are answering right there. So I love the engagement. Please keep it coming. I want to go to Auntie Rekia. Pardon me. It's very difficult for me to just say her name without adding Auntie. So you get used to hearing me call her that. Okay. Um, so there's this particular comment about the challenge of maternal mortality rate and how technology can help us change that. We still have like a very bad record when it comes to maternal mortality. As a matter of fact, during the lockdown, I know that we have a female journalist in Makodi or Jos, one of the cities, someone who is actually an award, Makodi, right? Passed while giving birth, and you wonder in 2020, 2021, people are even in the urban cities still lose their life in the course of having babies. So how can technology help in this stead, not just in the urban area now, but the core rural area?
Thank you very much, Rita. I mean, I always say this thing: there is absolutely no need for a woman to die giving birth. It can be so drastically reduced simply by just having access to very basic healthcare. Unfortunately, there are, various. If I take a typical example of Nigeria, for instance, over 260 languages. And here we are saying that certain women may probably not have access to information of how they can even access basic healthcare information, even if it is available around them. Take note that Atinuka made a very valid point. She said, sometimes the women are not even willing themselves. And all of it is because they do not know any better. Sometimes, my mother used to say, if you speak English and the child cannot hear, speak the local language. Maybe then they will get the point. You see what I mean? So I absolutely don't think it is necessary, not in this generation, but in Africa, we still record high rates of, maternal mortality because of some of these gaps and challenges. Earlier on, when Karima was talking, I just tried to answer questions about how we can use technology to bring this access to a lot of people, and I oftentimes when I think about it, Rita, I'm just like, is it time for us in Africa to begin to think of empowering our young people who are into computer scientists, and stuff like that? Is there something we can do with them instead of Africa continuously suffering brain drains? It is not impossible that those technological programs can be, crunched down into our local languages. Should our young people have been empowered enough? Do we encourage as government to encourage young people who have capacity to do these things. I'm sure we have young people on our streets who have, the know-how to decode anything, technology. They run the systems by themselves. But is there enough encouragement out there for them to translate that strength of knowledge into breaking down our technology into local, languages? I mean, take the communication platforms, for instance. If you want to reload your phone, they've been able to give you instructions in Igbo, in Hausa, in Yoruba, in Efik, in local languages. How come the health sector is unable to do, to do that? How come the health sector in this country or in Africa generally is unable to break down those information in those thousands of local, languages? And even if you're talking about the simple interface with the technology on a phone or a mobile device or something like that, if we encourage the bulk of our young people who have capacity to work in those fields, I'm sure they will come up with something. But do we make even that sector encouraging for them? I think is the biggest question. No woman needs to die giving life. It is just access to basic health facility.
Access to basic health facility. I hear you, Auntie Rekia. The other thing that runs in my mind as you speak is advocacy is something we talk about when we are looking at how the government can bring people to a table to discuss how to solve a problem, right? So you need to have advocacy. And when you talk of advocacy in Africa, most of the time, there must be intervention from NGO. So I'm going to go to Karima because I want to hear from another part of the continent, right? When it comes to the issue of politics, involving women in politics, you have NGOs who have taken this upon themselves to be in advocacy to make this work out. When it comes to the issue of health that Antarika just spoke about, we also have NGOs who are engaging in this. But have you been able to identify any NGO who has taken technology as a role to say, how do we get the government to be involved in carrying the locals along when it comes
Hello? Do you hear me?
I think I'm having network issues. Can you hear you?
Yeah, I think it's from their hand. I
I
can
think
hear you.
I can't hear the question of Queen Rita. I'm not able to hear the question.
Sorry, I think they're having a network issues. They'll be back in a bit.
Do you want me to answer the question?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Yeah.
Maybe they're back.
Okay. Well, I think about the question on advocacy and policies. I would say yes, and I would say that this has accelerated during coronavirus time because many CSOs started using civic technology in advocacy, and we started seeing new ways of using technological tools in advocacy during this time of outbreak. Now, I think we reach out a level to talk about NGOs 4.0. And also we're talking about NGOs using e-advocacy, so they're advocating online, and also using the concept of what we call politics 5.0. I know it's a lot of numbers, but actually this is what, because actually this is what we've been through. Many turned their action and activities online, and I think this also requires that we have an e-decision makers. It means that our governments should go digital. If, for example, we're doing a petition towards local government, for example, we need to ensure that we have processes and online structures put available so that we can put our e-petitions addressed to these local governments. So if our local government, for example, at the local level, at the communal level, provincial level, and regional level, are not using technology and not using technology, in their whole process of public consultation, of receiving policy briefs and NGO memoranda, and also petitions. The difference between and just
Okay, I can't hear Karima. I can't hear Karima. No. Karima, if you can hear me, we can hear you right now. Can you hear me, Karima? Okay, so if you hear me, just show me that I choose to challenge sign. You do, good. So let's go. All right. I can't hear.
Is that today we're talking about NGOs 4.0 using politics 5.0. Which means that technology has become part of our process, and we're using a lot of digital tools. Today, we're talking about a world of big data, about artificial intelligence, about innovation, and we've been seeing a lot of NGOs who are using those innovative tools, regardless of the size of NGO, because during Corona outbreaks, these tools had been put available. Some of them were free of charge to use for many NGOs in advocacy. But I said that it's very important that the other part, which is decision makers at government level, from the government, from parliament, from local government, to go digital as well. There have been experiences from international benchmarking where they use public consultation online with just a hashtag, involving millions of people in different consultations to voice their opinion and propose alternative. But we're not yet there. At least if we have online platforms to submit memoranda, so to submit complaints, citizen complaints, to submit petitions, online petitions. I'm not talking about e-petitions or other things which are not legally binding for the government. I mean, to have legislation that allows for online signatures, that allows for accepting those petitions legally to fall into the government side. So I think it started, but I think it needs a whole process so that we can have both pace go hand in hand. CSOs using these technologies, but also the decision makers needs to go online and use these technologies, allow platforms so that it will be a two-way mutual interaction in terms of that. But I think it's changing. I think you have to put your mic on. I can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now? Thank you very much, Karima, for that intervention from 4.0 NGO technology to the government 5.0 politics and technology. So indeed, there has to be a meeting point for us to be able to eventually get results out of whatever zeros and points is working in this particular situation. Let's go to Atinuke, who has hands up. Atinuke, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I just
Yes,
wanted to
please
add
go
more
ahead.
I wanted to add more to what Rekia said concerning pregnant women accessing technology, women accessing technology while pregnant. So there is can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So there is an organization in Ibalakos. I did a similar project in December, reaching out to pregnant women. You know, because of the pandemic, we had a lot of teenage pregnancies. So I did an outreach, reaching out to this set of people. And there is this organization I discovered, Help Mom. So Help Mom is a social enterprise with the mission to eradicate maternal and infant mortality in Nigeria. So basically what they do is using the power of mobile technology and low-cost innovations, they deliver life-saving health information to pregnant women on their mobile phones. It doesn't have to be a smartphone, even with the regular Nokia Touchlight phone. They send SMS to these women once they are registered with them. They also provide clean birth kits for women in deprived and undeserved communities. And via their vaccination tracking system, they send a reminder to women on their baby's vaccination. Then they provided birth attendants with tablets, which are installed with materials. They have an e-learning platform and they installed materials on it, which they use in training these birth attendants. So what I'm trying to get is that there's actually technology. People are already working on this, on how to reduce maternal mortality. We have people that are already working in this line. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Atinuke. We hear you loud and clear. Fumi, I don't know what to call this, an intervention or a question. You said the skills are important, but how do you fund? Funding is a problem, right? How do you fund the transfer of skills if there is no funds available for that? Because you might have the skill, but how do you fund transferring this skill from one community or the host of that skill to the people who need this skill?
That is why government has a very important role to play. And it has to come from the community level because we have at each local government we have councillors, we have the local government chairman who are the chief executive of this local government. So we have to put in place deliberate policy to empower these women, not only empowering them, to ensure that these skills are effectively transferred to them, because it's not enough for us to be talking. If we talk without us pushing them to take deliberate action, to be difficult. The task is very daunting, but like I was saying earlier, government is beginning to understand we cannot start inventing at this moment, but we can innovate. We can innovate to suit our peculiar environment. And I can tell you this for sure because during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have a school in Abuja, a Gliss International School, that came up with a robotic medical equipment that will reduce the contact between doctors and the COVID-19 patient. That is innovation. And I visited the school, I saw that they use local materials from within the school compound. So if government can encourage such innovations, this will be a thing of the past. And I'm also aware that Jane, one of our team members at Helpline Foundation, has an app that she's developing to enable women, like Auntie Rekia said earlier, not to die while giving birth. And if government can also identify people, individuals like this, that have the ideas, what they need is a push from government. And that is why from at all level, deliberate policy has to be put in place, and not just putting this policy in place, the people who are the end beneficiaries of this policy has to be involved from the conceptual level to the implementation level. That way we'll be able to start saying that we are beginning to get around this problem. You cannot just start dumping policies on people. Women are the ones who we are talking about. They should be at the foundation level. They know what they need. if a woman wants to transfer her goods through her phone now, thank God for the e-commerce that we are beginning to embrace now. They also need to sell their goods on some of these platforms. They need to know how to use this digital technology, which is why the cluster group also has to be encouraged, because all of them cannot be educated, but the few ones can help them see how they can access what they need. But the ball stop on the decks of government and policymakers, who should endeavor to carry women along from the planning level up to the implementation level.
I like what is going on in the chat room. Let me go to Antirikia first.
Completely, Rita, I agree with Joanne that the ball will probably lie on the desk of government and policymakers. Now, the instrument that government and policymakers have to make any change at all is the budgeting instrument. Because, I mean, Fumi is asking, it's so expensive to transfer the skills. Who takes care of the funding, and stuff like that? And the way the budgeting processes work, for instance, in Nigeria, if it is not budgeted for this year, we cannot have it implemented, which means a local government chairman does not have funds to give or to, fund that workshop that helps anyone to transfer these skills to these women, because he doesn't have it. He can't spend the money that has not been budgeted for. So the more awareness we raise, the more conscious the government budgeting process gets. Then, I mean, these days we talk about gender-friendly budgets. You understand what I mean? And so the more government processes begin to include gender concerns, gender mainstreaming, and then you get, the concerns of women budgeted for ahead of time. Perhaps then the burden of getting the funding reduces.
And this can also happen when you have more women participating at that level.
Exactly.
Because if they are not there, they are the ones that are wearing the shoes and they know where it pinches. But if we have limited number of women at that level making policies for us, it will be difficult for us to make all these things we are saying scale through. So also there should be deliberate effort again, just like we have in Namibia and South Africa and some countries, for us to have that balance at all levels, be it elective, appointive, and all level of public offices. Women should have a key role to play, and so that everything that concerns women can be discussed at that level. For if we have any need to take any particular bill to the Nigerian National Assembly today to favor women, it will take a lot of work for the few women there to do, to really lobby the men.
They are not even 5%.
They are less than 2%. So we have to have this thing across board. For us to have all rural women to be carried along. Have women.
Okay. It is not, we don't advocate that women should be part of these processes because we are women and we think we're privileged and we want the rights. No, only a woman truly understands the needs of a woman, talk less of another woman.
In any case, this conversation is about women. So definitely we have to speak about the fact that women can do it and women need to be carried along in this regard. I hear you, Ronke Bello, is on the chat room, and let me take that comment you said. You said CSOs need to mount pressure for advocacy on government. No, that's not Ronke, that's Nimi. I saw a message from Ronke earlier, that's what I'm trying to pick on. She said something about the tech giants. The tech giants, the fact, yes, okay, let me see, that's it. On our own as CSOs, we need to have this conversation with the tech giant. And she's already receiving response. Somebody says, yes, Ronke. So we need to take our advocacy to the doorsteps of the tech giants. What is instructive to note is the fact that these tech giants do know that they can make a difference. If you watch the tone of some of their commercials, right, you see the naming that is taking place in a village and somebody is stuck in the traffic and they are using telecom to communicate what name we want to give to this baby. We have seen situations where in the case of someone who has a marriage in the village, they are buying the things they need to take. So they do know that from what Dr. Jumai explained now, if you have a cluster of farmers who farm yam, for instance, and there is one person who have access to technology to put that farm on Instagram for them to sell it, they can access buyers easily instead of leaving their goods to go to rot. So, but at the telecom giants,
even if it is a compensation for that rural woman
Exactly.
reloading her, phone with 200 naira every week,
so
that she has access to a
that
platform
brings
where
me
she
to
can
the
say what it's
question.
about.
How do we get the telecom giants on board to actively get involved in this? One guy said at CSR. Dr. Juma Modu, I know you've had cause to engage them at the level of the FCT call center, looking to get short codes and all that. Is this something that can be navigated?
I think it's possible if all hands are on deck, because it's part of their responsibility, because they are doing business with government. It's only it's only it's only fair for them to see how they can come in. And if government identify this as the needs that they want them to come into, I believe that they can surely come in and help. And Ronke capture it very well, that if they are approached, they will not say no to it. If they see that what they are going to do is going to have direct impact on the well-being of rural women, they'll be able to go in there and see how they can enable them access market, access technology, and access all the information they need to improve on their lives, both in agriculture, their health, and also educational wise. They will be able to do that.
Okay, Asima, I see your message. You asked whether you could speak. Believe it or not, we have less than 15 minutes to round off. So if you would please be kind enough to post your comments, if it's a question, we would take it so we can better manage the time. Neoland, I think that's your name, Siobam Neoland, he said there has to be a political government push on cellular technology and other infrastructure companies to invest in these rural areas, or there really will be no way to get the funding to build the infrastructure. Okay, I think for time, I'm going to hand over to my big sister, Auntie Rekia now, who is the moderator for this particular session, so that she can take it from here. I know we still need to get a recap from our host, Dr. Juma Modu. So thank you, everyone. It's been really engaging. I appreciate the back and forth. Keep the conversation going. I think we're live on Facebook, right? So it's over to you, Auntie Rekia.
Thank you very much, the Queen.
Thank you, ma'am.
Queen Rita, you've done excellently well. It seems as if the conversation was, the program is coming to an end, and the participation is getting more and more engaging. I can understand how our participants feel right now, but really we're short for time, and I need to get Dr. Jumai to quickly come and give us a short recap of what the major resolutions are, because yeah, I know that Dr. Juma has been doing wonderful, and a lot of people want to engage with her on this platform. But quickly, very quickly, because we have less than 10 minutes actually, I'd like to give the floor to Dr. Juma, who will give us a quick recap of some of the major resolutions that we have had having this program. Still feel free to send in your suggestions, because I think that floor is still open for participants to send in their comments. Dr. Juman.
Thank you very much, Auntie Rekia. Thank you very much, Rita. Karima, we appreciate you, and Atinukia, all our participating audience out there, we appreciate your contribution. We've seen everything on the chat room, and believe you me, we are going to, as we normally do every year, collate them and see how we can push them to policy makers to see what they can do with this resolution. This evening, we have some action points which we extracted from all the contribution on the chat room and based on what our panelists have said so far. Number one is that deliberate measures should be put in place to include rural women in all the policy processes. That has been really talked about this evening. If they are not involved, they will not understand what you are talking about. So it's fair enough for us to ensure that they are part of it. If they are representative or direct participation.
Rural
And
women
rural women
should
should also
all
access all
information
information in their various languages. People
People
have argued this in the chat room that is possible.
If
If Google can translate languages for schools, we can actually go and break it down for them to understand. And also local women who already live in rural areas and can also tutor those who they are better than in terms of the basic use of this technology so that they can transfer that to improve the lives of women within their communities. Then stakeholders must engage with inventors. And like I said earlier, our government in Nigeria has taken that step now to ensure that there's a particular division slash department that will be in charge of innovations. If that happens, they'll be able to understand what these technologies are and minimize the illiteracy level. And we also see that in some African countries, we are seeing drones now taking blood to some rural areas, which is part of the use of technology that people have locally come around to see how they can effectively make use of them. And we also have to, finally, there has to be collaboration among various women groups and inventors in all the tech giants. This will enable them know what the issues are and practically see how they can encourage women to go into using this technology to be able to better their lives. And it's going to be an option for them to tap into. And finally, again, we have to encourage key office holders to be supportive of efforts that will make it easy for women to advance in technology. Without the support of government, whatever we discuss is not going to be very, very efficient. The government buy-in with the continued advocacy from NGOs, various interest groups. Government will see the need for them to really, really see how they can buy into this advocacy and ensure that the rural African women have a better life that they really deserve. Thank you very much. On this note, I would like to thank my distinguished panelists, the queen of the airwaves, and my big auntie, Auntie Rekia, the moderator. Karima, we appreciate you for always being there for Helpline Foundation for the Needy. Tinuke, I thank you very much. And the entire Helpline Foundation team. Without them, this could have been possible. I appreciate you all. I also want to thank Nemi Script, Simon Itodo, Arome is at the back end, ensuring that this is as successful as we have had it, and also the executive committee of the CSW. We thank them for the opportunity, and we look forward also to have another session physically, if coronavirus permits, or virtually next year. We'll keep doing our best from our little corner in Abuja, in Africa, to see how we can better the life of the rural African women. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Jumai. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Jumai. I'd like to sincerely thank all the participants who took their time out of sheer interest, to sit down, use your data and join, to lend your voice to. It was a very interesting chat room. People got answered questions and got answers right away. So interaction was happening at two levels, and that's wonderful to see the participation, the intense participation, and it is still going on. And I hope that we're recording and we're capturing everything that we can. Karima and Atinuke, thank you sincerely. And I think I could just spare like a minute or two for each of you to just recap on that most passionate message you want to give out this evening. Karima. Is Karima there?
Can you hear us? And that's what I want to hear. While we are waiting for
Karima is on, I think. Can you hear us?
We can hear us. So while we are waiting for Karima, she can hear us now.
No, go ahead.
At Helpline Foundation for the Needy Abuja, in the past 20 years now, we've been able to reach out to rural women in the north central part of Nigeria, and also across Africa, because we have the African Women Conference. That is an annual conference that we hold to be able to see how we can provide homegrown solutions to our problems. It's not enough for us to travel to the West for conferences. How practicable are the solutions that they are giving us from there? So that gave birth to the African Women Conference, where we talk about our challenges and see how we can practically come up with solutions that we can apply to solve all these problems. We also have the Girl Realize Your Potential project, which we believe to nurture our girls from the cradle for them to become the women that they are supposed to become, and that will make them realize their potential. We bring them out every year as well to see how we can impact in them. Successful women come out every year. Rita was part of the first edition, and today Kiatu has been there. Senators, medical doctors, they come to talk to these women because the aim is to enable us make these women become their role model, and they follow up with them. If you have a direct role model and you look up to, your aim is to become better than whoever that woman is. We also have the non-profit revolving loan scheme, which is a scheme that we came about after realizing how women are being enslaved. This microfinance. Yes, women are being enslaved. I call it the modern day financial slavery. So a woman will be given some amount of money and she'll be indebted to this particular lender until she's been able to raise the money in full. And in the process, she could have paid like 100% more than what she has borrowed from them. Yeah. So we now came with the non-profit revolving loan scheme, where we put them in a cluster of 20, empower 10, the remaining 10 will become the monitor that will ensure that their businesses are successful. That gives us some elements of monitoring from within this group, and that has been successful so far. Our food bank is working, and our various skill acquisition program is also on. So we are calling on partners to come and join hands with us, because there's no one organization that can do this alone. But if we come together as a group, we'll be able to impact more lives and see that from our little corner, we are doing our best to ensure that the world becomes a better place for our vulnerable women and girls.
Absolutely, Dr. Juma. Thank you very much. While we were waiting for the 2 minutes input from Atunike and Karima, I wonder if they can hear us now. Karima, can you hear me? Is Atunike there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Karima can hear. Okay, great. Okay, so Karima would quickly, in a minute, that most important message you want to give out tonight, and Atinike would follow right after Karima. Thank you.
You can hear her.
Is your mic muted?
Karima, we can hear you.
Okay,
you should go to Atinuke.
Yes, let's go to Atinuke while you sort out that, sort out what issue it is. Atinuke, can you hear it?
Yes, I can hear you. So,
okay, great.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. A lot has been said tonight, and it all lies on us to go back to our different organizations and see, based on the challenges that have been identified, to see how we can work together to assist these women. And I like the fact that it was brought up that ICT giants should work together. We can partner with these ICT companies on coming up with innovations to help these women. And I think for me, it's a critical and important part for me on coming up with technology apps and other solutions that will help these women to access technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Atinuke. I really wish I could hear from Karima right now, because I've got less than a minute or two to go off the program. Karima, can I hear you now? Oh. I hope other people can hear her. I sincerely hope it's just only me that cannot hear her.
No, I can't hear her too.
No, we can hear Karima. I don't know what happened with her audio.
It's okay, Karima. We can't hear you really. Something has gone terribly wrong with the audio. We could still hear ourselves here, but you, I don't know why. But this is what I would ask that you do. That important message you wanted to recap with, please send it to us in a text message, and we'll be sure to include it in the reports or something. Thank you very much, Karima. We're so happy to have you. We're honored to have you. Yeah, she's put it there already.
She would write it.
She would write it. Okay, so as soon as she writes it, and then how many more minutes do I have to go off? Thank you so much, participants. And in 2 minutes, we'll be off. Thank you so much. We're really grateful that you joined us. Dr. Juma, I want to say a very big thank you. I don't know where you find the strength from, but God will continue to,
When you have a good team.
when you have a good team. So, I mean, for one is passionate about the team. I have never seen someone who is so passionate about the team she works with. So team, you should just see the front of the camera or behind this camera and see how the team is sat watching every minute to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Team, thank you so much. Well done. Karima's post is here, so we still have the minute to at least read her post out. And Karima, if you can hear me, thank you for that swift response. She says, please invite rural women who have no access to technology to the next debate and have their voices heard.
Amazing.
Bravo, amazing
Amazing.
contribution. Thank you
Amazing.
very much, Karima. I'm sure that will be captured and shared. Atinuke, thank you so much once again. Participants, thank you very much. And at the top of the minute, dying out and going off, my name is Rekia Ibrahim Atta, and it's been a great pleasure to moderate the sessions with Helpline Foundation. Thank you very much. I am the ambassador, yeah.
Yes,
and I enjoy that job, absolutely. I enjoy the job, absolutely. Thank you, and do have a wonderful, well done. Do have an absolutely wonderful weekend.
So, I choose
Bye.
to challenge.
I choose to challenge.
I choose to challenge female genital mutilation.
I choose to challenge all form of discrimination against women. All of them.
All forms of discrimination against women. Thank you, Atinike. Thank you once again, Karima. And I can't wait to share the same space physically with you. Corona disappearing hopefully next year.
Or during
Thank
the next
you.
African Women
Or
Conference.
during the
That's
next
in
African
November.
Women Conference in November. Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
Karima. She needs to get traveling again.
And
Let
we're getting a
COVID
lot
go.
of buys from
Our travel
participants as
ambassador.
well. Thank you.
They'll
Thank
give us
you.
10 minutes before the young.
Thank you.
You know, if not for Corona, I would have seen Karima in like 700 countries by now. By the way, your sketches are becoming more amazing by the day, Karima. You're getting better by the day. You know she draws. Oh my God, yeah.
And I call her energy.
Energy.
And Atinuke, we should
Nice to meet you, Atinike.
Atinuke, we should have a physical meeting and go to these communities, you know, with Help Life Foundation and try to work out something. That would be really amazing.
And there was this woman I also saw on the Guardian newspaper. I'm trying to trace the woman. She is a widow with 4 children.
Wow.
And the picture on the Guardian showed her in the middle of a stream, fetching sand to go and sell.
look after her
Go under the
children.
sun, take the
Women are doing amazing things, you
Some
know,
of them
and
very
all of
risky.
it is about sending children to school, making children better, you know.
This is the picture. Which
Lovely.
is then how we can go. Have we been?
Can we zoom in? No, I don't
Look
think
at
it's
that.
one drop.
But
But let's try it here. Okay. No, let's see whether we can just put it there. Where's the camera here?
and we can't even share the screen so every other person can see.
That is something to see.
We're still enjoying our overtime.
Where can I put it? Can we see that while they try to put it up on? Yeah.
Can we share the screen and see people looking at it?
Thank you. Okay. With our 10 minutes, we should be able to.
That's a woman with 4 children who has to go get sand from under the water to sell. How many trips do you have to make?
I got in touch with the camera woman. It is a woman who told me
And
something.
even recently, there was this news that there was the crisis in Ibadan, and there's this lady who you know, she trained, she sold pure water, she did all kinds of things to send her son to the military, you know, academy and stuff like that. He finally becomes that officer. And in that crisis in Shanksha or wherever, he was shot and hacked. She was weeping like crazy. I sat down where I was and I really wept just listening to the woman, you know, because I could immediately identify with the struggles, you understand? And all she kept saying is that I sold pure water, I did all kinds of jobs, I did everything to make sure this boy, you know, and now he's there and he was hacked in the market space in a crisis that, if you ask me, didn't make sense.
Thank you very much.
Wow. So thanks everyone.
Let's keep the conversations going on.
Most of the African Women Conference members were with us online. I want to thank them.
Is this a Latino from the Maryland? Actually,
I didn't see her.
Oh, she was there. She was there.
The chair of the AWC.
Oh, Her Excellency.
Excellency. Hajia Mero Aminu Tamboa. Thank you very much for the wonderful work you've been doing, and we look forward to you taking AWC to the next level like you have promised.
That's she who doesn't like it when I say Your Excellency. But yes,
yeah, but she's not here to smack us, so we'll say Her Excellency now.
So, especially since we still have about 10 minutes.
I thought we were supposed to go to Sokoto. What happened?
Coronavirus happened. On the Helpline Foundation, we have Fumi Ajare, the Chief Operating Officer. We have Jane. Jane is anchoring the CSW for us. Arame is there also. We have Maris. We have Cecilia. We have Suleiman. Suleiman is giving us technical support. And
let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Jumai. These days, we know how busy you are. And then when I'm thinking, I can't get Jumai, I don't even think twice. I just call Fumi or call Arome or somebody.
So they've been wonderful. Without them, I don't know where.
Fumi, where is my sister?
She's not in the office.
I think she must have got to see the minister.
And of course, I would like to especially thank the Minister of State, FCT,
the Mamma Mia.
Tijani Aliu. She's been giving us also
amazing
all the platform that we need to excel.
Amazing,
she could have been part of the panelists, but she had a very busy day today.
Yeah.
So thank her.
We were part of that.
Ajasmao is leading the Coalition for Women Inclusion in Government.
Yes.
She's doing quite wonderfully well to see that women are brought together under our umbrella.
Oh, thank you so much.
I tell you, women are warriors, I tell you. One of the best parts.
So they should follow us. They should follow us.
Yes.
Our participants can follow us on AWC for and Helpline Foundation for this conversation to continue.
Yeah, we just got a chat from Julie Stenberg to everyone saying this was one of the best parent events we African women. Asante Sana to all of you. Asante Sana.
Asante Sana.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And the
Uniform Ethic of She Forum Africa, my power sister. We see you. Thank you. She came in right on time before we took off. Ini, thank you, girlfriend.
Thank you and well done, everyone.
Well done, ma'am. Well done, madam.
Thank you.